Good morning, Western Washington, and happy Monday. I'm Matthew Fab with Western Washington Weather, and today we're going to take a look at the forecast more in depth for the incoming bomb cyclone and the impacts that will have across the Northwest. I'm dividing it mainly into four main impacts this storm is going to have, which is wind, waves, rain, and snow. And we're going to take a look at all of those in a moment here. Taking a look right now at the radar this morning, you can see some lingering convergence zone activity over Snohomish County. Lots of showers moving on the coast. Some of these will move through the lowlands today. And with temperatures on the cooler side in the upper 30s, we could have a few areas that see some very brief snow pellets or rain-snow mix, but no accumulations of any kind expected. Taking a look at the GOES satellite here, looking across the Pacific Ocean, you can see our storm is starting to form out here, out over the open ocean. We will see this rapidly move to the west, or to the east, and develop as it gets closer to our coastline. The storm should peak right about here in this area I'm highlighting, so we'll continue to watch this over the next 24 hours. Plus. So now let's take a look at that simulated radar. You can see the HER model here shows showers at times moving through the lowlands today with this. It shows some snow potential, but this is not actually going to fall as snow. It will just be potential rain-snow mix or some snow pellets under the heaviest showers. And you can see some rounds of showers will move into the mountains and bring some snow there, with more heavy showers at times moving on the coast all the way through this evening, and potentially bringing some rain-snow mix at times, and then some snow to the mountains as all of these showers move through. And then you can see as we go through Tuesday, some more showers may be on the coast, but they don't really make it into the lowlands as much. By the time we get to Tuesday afternoon, you can see the rain out ahead of that bomb cyclone is moving into the area. But take a look at this rain shadowing across parts of the lowlands due to the gap winds that are going to be coming out here and drying out the air. So it's likely to not be as much rain right here, especially between Seattle and Tacoma due to those gap winds. And then you can see rain heavy at times continues through Wednesday morning when it should fill. Wednesday morning when it should fill in there. And then you can see as we go into this is 3 a.m. Wednesday, rain and snow start to move off into the Cascades as those gap winds weaken, and then we start to have some heavy showers potentially moving onto the coast. We'll take a look at that more tomorrow, but one thing to note is that this storm will have some heavy snow over the mountain passes. So let's take a look at the storm itself. So we're starting here with the European model at 1 a.m. Tuesday. You can see the storm rapidly strengthening as we go through the day Tuesday off of our coast there, bottoming out at 943 millibars. Around 7 p.m. Tuesday, almost directly parallel with the Washington coast. This is an extremely strong storm and very deep. That is an incredible pressure reading to get so close to the Pacific Northwest coast. You can see as we go through early Wednesday, the storm starts to weaken. The pressure gradient across the Cascades relaxes, and that storm starts to move off back to the west again. But one thing to watch, in the wake of a strong cyclone like this, it's possible for it to spin up a smaller low that can impact the coast and parts of the interior as a windstorm. And you can see that this run of the European model shows exactly that happening. So you can see by Friday, the bomb cyclone is gone and has moved off to the west. But it's generated this area of low pressure here that's moving up the Washington coast. This is a double barrel low right here. And then it starts to consolidate into this 974 millibar low that moves right over the northwest tip of the Olympic Peninsula. There's a 979 millibar low. And that would bring strong southerly winds to the coast and the interior. And that is something we'll have to watch over the next few days if this is looking like a forecast that could actually happen. This has happened many times with strong, very strong, very deep cyclones offshore. They generate these smaller, a little bit more intense cyclones that move right up the coast. So this is something to watch over the next few days, and this is just one potential version of what that could be, and we'll take a look at that over the next few days. Now I have the European model pressure forecast here set at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, and you can see the huge pressure gradient across this forecast here with the low pressure offshore, high pressure over the Great Plains there, and in between you have Washington, and you have a strong pressure gradient across the Cascades and into western Washington, and that is what's going to generate those gap winds. And so the winds basically get pulled out, sucked out through the gaps of the Cascades there, and since wind flows toward lower pressure, the wind will always be flowing out toward the coast there, an offshore flow, and wind is strongest at the exit of the gaps, and that's why the wind is going to be strong over the Puget Sound area. So let's take a look at that forecast here. This is the European model, and we'll look at timing of these winds more tomorrow, but it is going to be Tuesday evening into early Wednesday morning. So the European model shows basically areas from Tacoma northward to Everett gusting 40 plus miles per hour, and then some areas from Everett north toward Bellingham also gusting 40 plus, including Whidbey Island and Island County there in the San Juans. And then the thing to look at here is that the European model is showing wind gusts of 45 to 55 miles per hour, extending all the way out to Puget Sound near Des Moines and Federal Way. And then in addition, Auburn, Kent, Renton, SeaTac, and even southern Seattle gusting 50 plus, including Bellevue and Issaquah there, 50 to 55 miles per hour east of I-405, North Bend, Covington, Ravensdale, Black Diamond, Enumclaw, all could gust 65 plus miles per hour in this storm. You can see we have a wind-shadowed area that includes most of the Kitsap Peninsula, most of Tacoma, Puyallup, and Olympia, and then you can see a secondary gap here to the south of Pierce County over parts of Thurston and Lewis counties that is south of Mount Rainier. This is along the US 12 corridor that could bring some gusty winds in that area as well. And then you can see more gap winds coming out of the Stevens Pass area near Gold Bar, Monroe, Arlington, and that could bring gusts of 50 plus miles an hour to some of those areas that definitely don't see these winds very often. And then you can see on the coast as well, southerly winds that will be slightly offshore gusting 50 plus miles an hour as well. And then in the Strait, we also have like reverse flow out of the strait gusting 50 to 60 miles per hour, strongest out here near Neah Bay. So the thing to note with these winds, especially here in the Puget Sound area, and the main areas I'm looking at are eastern King County there and then parts of Snohomish and Skagit counties. These type of winds are power outage machines because the trees are not used to the wind coming out of the east. We're used to winds coming out of the west-southwest there. But when winds come out of the east, the trees are much more susceptible to tree damage and then causing major power outages. So that is something we have to watch very closely. And we'll talk about that even more tomorrow, and I'll be talking about that on my social media pages as well. But do be prepared for potential power outages if you are in King County and then parts of Snohomish and Skagit counties near I-5 and to the east there. This could bring power outages for a vast majority of the area, so we'll have to see what happens, and tree damage is also likely as well. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that more on my social media and in tomorrow's video, but there is definitely a chance for power outages, especially if you're somewhere like North Bend, which could be gusting near 70 miles per hour. So the next impact of this bomb cyclone here is going to be these massive waves off the coast. And you can see as we go through Tuesday, as this bomb cyclone strengthens, you can see these massive waves start hitting the coast. By early Wednesday morning, we're going to be talking about breakers of 30 plus feet, potentially up to 45 to 50 feet right off the coast. They're just incredible waves. This is going to be very dangerous if you're on the coast. You know, you can watch these waves and they're going to be quite a spectacle, but you do need to be very careful because these waves will be eroding beaches, they'll be moving logs, moving rocks, doing a lot of damaging things that you don't see in a typical storm just because of the strength of this storm. You can see that those waves do start to diminish there by the time we get to early Thursday. So Wednesday looks to be the peak for those waves. Now talking about precipitation here, this is the National Blend of Models. You can see the impact of the offshore winds here all the way through Wednesday night with that lesser rain totals over parts of the I-5 corridor, really from the Canadian border all the way down toward Tacoma, with only about a 4/10 of an inch to a half of an inch for the I-5 corridor there, versus up to 1.5 inches over the Kitsap Peninsula, 1+ inches from Olympia southward, and then 2 to 2.5 inches for the coast. And then in the mountains, this will mostly be snow, and we'll take a look at that. Here you can see that we are likely going to get some pretty big snow amounts with this system. Around 12 inches for Snoqualmie Pass, maybe 15 to 20 at Stevens and White Passes, and you can see the Olympics even picking up a lot of snow. Higher peaks will be getting multiple feet of snow with this system. So if you are traveling over the mountain passes, especially from Tuesday evening through Wednesday, you need to be very prepared for winter storm conditions, potential closures, chain requirements, all that kind of stuff. That's all coming with this storm. There is a lot going on with this bomb cyclone, obviously, and we'll talk about that more over the next couple days, but just to show you how much is going on, take a look at all these alerts on the National Weather Service Seattle website. I will put a link to this in the description below. And of note is the storm warning off the coast here. This is criteria for very strong winds out over the waters, and then these browns here on the coast and in the East Puget Sound lowlands are high wind watches for the windstorm that is coming up. And then this bright green over the sound here you can see is a coastal flood advisory that is in effect for this morning for some potential coastal flooding with continued king tides across across the area, but don't expect too much impacts with that, as the forces that align to bring us tidal flooding aren't really that impactful today. So as always, I am on 4 different social media platforms. I talked about this yesterday, but I'll talk about it again today. I'm on YouTube. Obviously, you're watching that right now. I'm on Facebook, Western Washington Weather Facebook group. I put a link to that in the description, along with my Blue Sky and Twitter accounts. You can find all that in the description below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and share these videos. Subscribing is the best way to stay tuned, and with this major storm coming up, it will be great to stay tuned and get the latest information, and I will talk to you all about that tomorrow.